name is Brittany, and I'm coming to you guys today talking to you about being induced at 37 weeks. I currently have a 14-month-old. Her name is Riley, and you'll see some more of her on my channel coming soon as well. But yes, we have a 1-year-old, and last year we gave birth and to our great miracle baby. But I want to kind of give some insight on being induced early to anybody who was like me, like when you were getting ready to be induced or your doctor told you that that was the plan, that you know you have something to go online and Google or YouTube to see kind of what it feels like or what somebody else's experience was, just to kind of get an idea, because I know everybody's labor and delivery story is completely different. But for me, my body is very sensitive to most things, medicine, sore, like sports, being sore all the time, just different things that I always encounter. I'm always like that extra sensitive person. So I kind of knew this process would probably be a little bit extra painful for me. Other people probably maybe not, but for me it was. I'll say going through the process, you know, we went to our doctor's appointment, our regular OB, and at 37 weeks we were going to 2 appointments per week, which was one just because, you know, you're normally supposed to do that. Just with your regular OB, you know, those appointments increase as you get farther along. And then our baby was measuring on the smaller side. She was only born at 5 pounds and 0 ounces. So they wanted to keep an eye on the pregnancy in the midway point. They decided to, you know, have us go to a specialty, and we got like 3D ultrasounds done every time that we went. So that was reassuring all the time, to be able to see the baby more often than waiting for those appointments where you wait for those ultrasounds each time. So we did that. At the appointment before we did have her, my doctor told me that they were having a little bit of an issue seeing her move that day, which, you know, I was a little worried about. I felt her move before the appointment, you know, a lot. She was moving all the time, but they just said, you know, on the ultrasound they tried to like press on my stomach a lot, really hard actually, to kind of get her to move in different directions, and she just wasn't moving. She did end up moving at the very end of the ultrasound, but my doctor just said, you know, you're 37 weeks, you're okay to go ahead and deliver, everything else looks good, so let's go ahead and head over to have a baby. We were excited, but also very nervous, you know, the baby coming early instead of at 40 weeks, at 37 weeks. But it was also a blessing in disguise, because I was already so anxious. We were so ready. We did have our hospital bag packed already, so she told us take a few hours, but not too long, and go grab your things. The hospital was about 40 minutes away. It was North Side, Forsyth, and Cumming in Georgia. We live in Michigan now, but at the time we delivered in Georgia. And headed on over, registered, got checked in. They took me up in a wheelchair and kind of explained to me what was going to happen, introduced me to all the nursing staff, which was great. And from there it started. So they told me that, you know, they were going to start me on Cervidil, which Cervidil, I looked it up in my phone just to make sure that I can give you guys the exact definition of what Cervidil is. So it basically helps dilate the opening of the uterus, your cervix, in pregnant women. All it is something that they're placing literally on your cervix to open up the uterus. So this is the process before anything else. They told me that would be placed there for about 12 hours, which it was a little uncomfortable. They said it might feel a little scratchy, which it kind of did, but it was kind of one of those things, almost as a tampon. You know, as the tampon sits there, you really don't feel it. Once you move around, you do kind of feel that. I didn't get to see what it looked like, but it did have, you know, a string attached to it, or something attached to it. So that was there. And placing it in, of course, they have to reach very far. It almost felt like, you know, you're getting checked for being dilated. So I don't know, many mothers who have had children, you know what that feels like. The mothers who you haven't, get ready for that. It's nothing you can really do to prepare yourself. I don't think I would have done anything different to prepare myself for that, but I think breathing is something that really did help me. I work out a lot previously and currently, so being able to control my breathing was probably the only thing that helped me. So I breathe in through my nose and blow out through my mouth and just really focus on the breathing instead of internalizing that pain. So that is what happened. It took about 2 minutes for her to place it correctly, and then they came back throughout that whole labor process. She came back around maybe 4 times to check my cervix, which it felt the same each time. It was horrible. The other nurse described and said she has longer fingers than me, so it'll get done a lot quicker to check. So as you can tell, like that's just painful hearing it again for myself too. But I got through it. I ended up literally sliding all the way to the top of the headboard in the middle of the bed. I remember Daryl, my fiance, was looking at me like he'd never seen me in that much pain. My mom is a nurse. She's never seen me in that much pain. It was just crazy. But like I said, that's me. I'm super sensitive, and I know some friends who go through that process and get their, you know, cervix checked for dilation, and it wasn't that bad for them. But moving on, so that stayed on the entire night. You felt crampy the whole time while it was in, and it just kind of felt like recurring cramps happening. Later, they started me on an IV while the Cervidil was still in. They started me on an IV for Pitocin, and then later on ended up taking the Cervidil out. But Pitocin is, let me give you the actual definition. It can be used to strengthen your labor contractions during childbirth. And it also can be used to control bleeding, it says. So they started that through an IV through my arm. And that process, you know, regular IV through your arm, it started to go. And that is where the contractions and the cramps picked up like heavily. So I remember when they gave it to me, it was in the middle of the night that day that we had gotten there. I don't have my time correct because I haven't re-looked at my videos, but I can, you know, look at those and put those below. But it was in the middle of the night. This was April 16th that we got there, that midday, in the middle of the day. I believe it was like 2 o'clock, and then my daughter was born at 12. Don't quote me on that. She was born at 12 on April 17th. I remember, so after the Pitocin started flowing, and they came and checked on me pretty often just to see how those contractions were feeling. They got pretty strong. Like I said, the biggest thing for me was controlling my breath. So started controlling my breath, held on to Daryl's hand a lot throughout that night, and tried to get some sleep. Through that process, I did get in so much pain that I did need, she asked if I wanted a shot of morphine, which I really didn't want to do any medicine other than the epidural, because that I didn't even barely want to do that. But, you know, the pain, I knew I was going to be super sensitive to it. So throughout, in the middle of the night, I did ask her for a shot of morphine, and she gave me a shot of Zofran as well with it to help with the nausea, which I'm not one big for getting nauseous, but as soon as those cramps start kicking in, it's like it didn't feel like PMS cramps to me. It more so just felt like somebody was scraping and like squeezing your uterus together, and in that pelvic area it felt very, very heavy, almost like you needed to use the bathroom, or, you know, just release at some point, like your body needed to release whatever. So that's just kind of how it felt for me. I remember feeling like that, but they would then die down, so I was able to kind of hold and breathe for a second, and then as it passes, you know, you can breathe. But she did give me the shot of morphine, and she said those will last for about 2 hours, so it helped extremely a lot. But I know my daughter did come out when she was born. She was really tired, which was expected. She was tired for about a week, and she was so small with 5 pounds that was expected for her. If I could go back, I would still take the morphine because it was worth it. And 2 hours after I had the first shot, in my thighs, she gave them to me in my thighs, I had to get another one right before it was really, you know, time for her to be born. Next thing you know, the Pitocin really kicked in. I feel like in the middle, going into the next day, like early morning of that next morning, when she was closer to being born, I felt the contractions really get strong to the point where I could almost feel my stomach like balling up itself. At that point, you know, we were about to call the nurse in to, you know, make sure everything was okay, because I was in so much pain. So I was getting ready to sit up out of the bed, and as soon as I did, my water broke. So that felt great, like just knowing that, you know, that release that I was saying that I needed, that is what it felt like. After that, it kind of moved really fast. They came in, gave me my epidural. I was completely numb. I don't know what they did when I did tell them that I could still feel on my left side. And I remember hearing stories of other people saying, make sure that you can't feel anything after your epidural, because, you know, you can't go back after you start, you know, your process of labor. So, and once you're fully dilated. So I did go ahead and have them come back in. So I couldn't feel anything on both sides, waist down, and that was great. That was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. After that, they said that I only had to probably push a total of maybe like 5 or 6 times, and she was out, thank God. But I couldn't feel anything, so that's the benefit of the epidural. You don't feel any tearing. I did have a 2nd-degree tear, so that was handled, and then she was born. So inducing overall process, I mean, it really was quite simple for my case. I don't know how everyone's turns out, you know, if there's more steps that go to that or less, but Cervidil and Pitocin were a big part of that, and they were, you know, they weren't horrible, but, you know, it's definitely something you remember. It's been a year, so I still remember that process pretty well, but I would do it all over again for her. So that is my being induced story at 37 weeks. I do have a 1-year-old, like I said. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I will be coming to you more with videos similar, just kind of going through what my story was, and mommyhood videos, motherhood videos, so look forward to those. But any questions or comment, just comment below and I'll be sure to answer them. Bye, have a great day.